Hello and welcome to the Draft Talk podcast. We're back talking all things NFL draft. And what an episode we have for you today, continuing our top 5 series. It's a belter. It's the edge rushers that we're going to focus on today. And when I say we're focusing on, of course, I mean us, the Draft Talk team. Me, your host, Brian. I'm joined by these two legends, of course, Owen and Stu. How are you guys? You ready for another top 5 session?
Yeah, almost like we haven't been away, isn't it? I'm excited to. I think we started well. This episode will top the last one. I'm almost sure of it.
Your confidence is shining through, Owen. Yeah, defensive edges, premium position in the NFL, always sought after. There's a good group this year. Let's get into it.
Yeah, just want to say before we do, if you've not listened, the last episode was good as well. I know Owen's saying this one's loads better, but check that out as well. Of course, we did the defensive tackles and nose tackles, but yeah, we're focusing on the edge. And if you've not listened before or watched, what have you been playing at? We're doing this for 5 years. Come on, sort it out. But anyway, here you are. Here we are. The guys have done all the hard work on these prospects, ranking them, and they finally put together a top 5. And let's dive into it. Yeah, edge rushers, you need them. You need as many as you can get. So let's start. Stu went first last time. So and I'll give you the start. Who's your number 5 edge rusher, please?
Okay. I think we need a caveat here first to say it's because a player is 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. It doesn't mean that they're not a good player. I think this edge group is stacked. My number 6 player I would have as a top 20 player in this class. That's how good it is. So it was really hard to leave people off the top 5. We will come round and speak about them. But number 5 for me, Shemar Stewart from Texas A&M, who has rapidly ascended up draft boards. I'm convinced he will go in the top 15 picks of the draft because his combination of athleticism, of strength, of size, and his ceiling is spectacular. That he is a prototype coming off the edge, 6'5", 281 pounds at the Senior Bowl, listed at 290 at Texas A&M. So we think he played a little bit heavier. Positives: that size is rare. 6'5", 281. His length, he just is. He's built to be an NFL defensive end, and his movement skills to pair with it are just exceptional. He shouldn't be able to sink his hips and bend, and the flexibility he can offer to turn the corner. He shouldn't be able to do that at his size. This class is loaded with players who are in the 240s, low 250s, and Shemar Stewart has the athleticism and has the bend as good as any of them. Now, why do I have him at 5? Simply because he hasn't put it all together. That he's had 4.5 sacks is in his entire college career. He's had 1.5 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons. So that's over 37 games. He's had 4.5 sacks. He just has had no production. I see flashes, the ability to have pass rush moves, but at the moment he is winning purely off his athleticism and off his ability to violently bully defensive tackles, because he plays quite a lot through the middle. I think he'll play better off the edge where he can get after offensive tackles rather than interior guys. But that minimal production hasn't scared me because I think he will go in the top 15 picks, but I would rank others ahead of him simply because I haven't seen it. I think he has it, but I haven't seen it like I have for the others. First time this episode, he's muted again.
God almighty. Come on.
Catchphrase coming.
Shemar Stewart, to my fool, for me is a classical example of drafting for what a guy can be rather than for what he has been. Because there are more productive players in college football, no doubt about it, but there ain't many 281-pound monsters who can move like Shemar Stewart. He's really explosive for his size. His speed to power can be really dominant. He's got really violent hands. He is a bit reliant on see the ball, get the ball, rather than anticipating what's going to happen, but he can get away with it because of his athleticism. He needs to finish better as a tackler as well. There has been opportunities, I think, for him to have more sacks, but he doesn't quite finish there. You can move him around to find a good weak spot in an offensive line. You know, he is somebody who's a bit versatile. He's got everything that you want. It's just a case of getting a good defensive line coach, defensive coordinator, getting their hands on him and teaching him the nuances that he needs to do to use everything that he's got there. And if he does, look out, because he does have that real, you know, it's something that you don't see very often in somebody that size. But for the reasons Owen's talked about, I also have him at number 5. Okay. So that's a bit of a surprise. I know we've not talked about any of this beforehand. No. We do it completely blind, and I thought we were going to be completely diverse in all these players, so I'm quite surprised, but it's good. Yeah, we're bang on the same spot.
I think that's why it's important to say that how much we like all these players, because if we look back in 3 years' time and Shemar Stewart is the best of this lot, we wouldn't be surprised. We still like him. We still think he'll be he's worthy of a top 20 pick. He'll go higher than that. It's just we like other guys as well. It's, you know, in draft community, the way it comes round is you're either right or you're wrong, right? And number 5 would be seen as being wrong if he has a successful career, but that's not what we're saying at all. We're saying that there's a lot of really good players in this draft. I don't think Texas A&M did him any favors, and I think we could say the same a bit about Nick Scourton, his teammate. I don't know what was going on. The defensive line coaches there, or what they were asked to do, but they were certainly asked to play heavier than they naturally should be, and they just didn't get the best out of their players. Shemar Turner, who is a defensive tackle, he also didn't perform as well as we expected him to. But Shemar Stewart certainly has unteachable power, unteachable length. And he's a prototype. We now need to see him in action.
Good stuff. Okay, Stu, we'll come to you next. Number 4, please.
I think now maybe was where we get interesting. Who knows? Number 4 for me, I have Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. He is an experienced player. He's 6'5", round about 260-ish. 5-star recruit from Ohio, and has stayed in Ohio, and has been really productive for the national champions. He's really well built, versatile. He's able to play a bit of stand-up, bit of hands in the dirt. Really good, relentless effort. He never gives up on a play. Strong at the point of attack. He's got a good first step. He's patient in the run game, and he keeps his gap integrity pretty well. He's good at funneling runners back into the traffic. He can use his length to lock out opponents pretty well and disrupt the backfield. He is a little bit inconsistent, which you do expect from young players. He's not maybe as twitched up as some of the other guys that you might find, and maybe not as bendy, but I think he is somebody who's rock solid, really reliable, and will be a very productive pass rusher too for me. You know, opposite maybe someone who has the elite guy. He'll be that second person there, but he's got leadership. He sets edge well. He's really disciplined, and I think he's just a rock steady prospect.
Yeah, I think he has everything you want from an NFL player. That's someone who has size. He has physicality. He has a relentless, endless motor. He'll never give up. Almost like never say die attitude. But I don't think he's particularly flashy. I think exactly what you're going to get from Jack Sawyer.
I think he's maybe not got the highest ceiling, but he's got a high floor.
Absolutely. I haven't ranked him in the top 5. And this is where it comes to in this draft. Do you take the floor, or do you take what a player could be and the upsides that they possess? And that's something that teams are really going to have to wrestle with, because I would see this draft as a draft where you can get those players who have to fill out your roster. Someone like Jack Sawyer, who can be, the edge 2, but you don't have to reach for the stars. You know he's going to come in and be productive for you. The draft's littered with those type of players. So I would, early on, I would be more willing to reach on the explosive guy. That's how I evaluate. Me and Stu have always been slightly different on that. Yeah. I'll always go for the explosive, on the athleticism, whereas you tend to, like, what you're going to get, and that comes back to bite both of us in the arse sometimes.
Completely.
But that's why there's no right or wrong answer, and there needs to be a blend of it. So I have him as edge 8, but I would love to have Jack Sawyer on my team. If I was a team, as an Atlanta Falcons fan, I would love to have Jack Sawyer on the team, because that is what NFL rosters are built on, players like Jack Sawyer.
And that's why we could never run a team together. A draft night, the time would be, this player's got a good floor, this player's got a good ceiling. Oh, your 10 minutes are up, you can't draft anyone.
I think here is trying to find the blend of the two, right? And that's what you get, the top.
Good stuff. Owen, have your number 4, please?
Yeah, so my number 4 is Mike Green from Marshall, who is the sack leader in Division 1 FBS this season. 17 sacks, 23 tackles for a loss, over 50 pressures through the season. Just absolutely extraordinary season at Marshall. 51 pressures, displayed elite power creation and explosive movement, possesses instant bursts, has the flexibility, has the bend. The question marks over Mike Green have been his size. We believe in the summer that he was 235 pounds. That won't cut it in the NFL. Luckily, he's measured in at 251 pounds at the Senior Bowl, basically cementing his place as a first rounder. Measuring at 6'3", 251. That's now verified by the Senior Bowl. Closing burst, anticipation, violent hand swipes. He's just got stupid flexibility. Is really developed as a pass rusher. Extremely productive as well, as we've seen. I think he is a better athlete than he's been given credit for. Bit of a wrestling background as well. Not the star wrestler that we've seen with some others, but certainly has a wrestling background, and that comes through with his aggressive play style. I really like Mike Green. I think he'll be a top 20 pick. One of the top defenders in college football this past season. And if you want a player who's going to come in and rush the passer for you straight away, you won't go far wrong with Mike Green.
Yeah, Mike Green is really explosive. That first step really tests tackles' balance and their quickness. He's well built. He's got good balance as well. He doesn't get knocked off his feet very easily. He's got good quickness and shoot. He can shoot a gap inside as well as getting around the outside edge as well. He's consistently physical. He's got a good closing burst as well. Once he gets around that corner, he is hunting down the quarterbacks very quickly. He's got good hip and ankle flexion to turn those corners as well. He's stronger than I think you think of somebody at that size as well. Yeah. You think somebody who's been playing at 230.
Yeah,
he's going to get bullied, but he will. We saw that the clip that's been out in the Senior Bowl.
Josh Connolly.
He just absolutely flattened him.
Yeah.
It's one clip. We see all these all the time at the Senior Bowl. And people make a lot about them, but it's not just a one-off for Mike Green. He can do that consistently. I really like him as well. I have him at 3. Again,
I thought you might be a little bit higher.
Yeah, we've got just a little bit ballpark, roughly the same. Someone's going to fall in love with Mike Green and take him pretty early.
Yeah. When you look at that Senior Bowl clip, don't base your whole scouting report off just one Senior Bowl clip, because those Senior Bowl reps are useful, but they're highly weighted on the defensive players. You very rarely offensive tackles blocking just one-on-one on their own. There's normally someone else around that he put Josh Conley on his arse. Let's be honest, he's one of the best offensive linemen in the class, so that's why that stood out. But Mike Green has shown the ability to win in several different ways, the athleticism being the key one, but he plays a lot bigger than he'd been given credit for, expected to be 235, say a lot heavier than that. But his strength wasn't a concern. It was just that it would come out light because he never looked like he played. With that lack of, he didn't have a lack of strength was never a weakness on his.
He doesn't have
profile.
that typical kind of lanky outside linebacker type vibe to him. He's weighed sort of the same as some of those guys, but he's just never had those. You're going to stand him up on the outside and just run the corner. He's a bit more than that for me. Well, a lot more than that. But yeah, I do really like Mike Green.
Yeah, I would say that's one final thing on Mike Green. Obviously, we said 17 sacks. I said 51 pressures. So it's 17 sacks on 51 pressures. What's about just over a quarter of his pressures he's converting into sacks, which is
he closes down quickly. Yeah.
Nice. There we go, Stu. That was your number 3. Can I have your number 2, please?
Have we done Owen's number 3? Are we at his 3?
It might be the same as your number 2.
Okay.
Don't you worry. Yeah. I've got it.
Okay, you've got it switched on. James Pearce Jr. from Tennessee. We've talked about twitchy, explosive edge rushers, and that is his absolute calling card. He's really quick off the ball. He's got a decent speed to power punch given his low weight as well, but he's got very fast hands. He can turn the corner very, very quickly. He's got really natural instinct as a pass runner. He sets up tackles and then they think he's going one way, he goes the other. He can sometimes make them look a little bit stupid and off balance. He moves up and down the line, working for a space to get through. His closing speed, we talked about Mike Green. James Pearce's is even more devastating than that. He will turn pressures into sacks once he's away. He's got a really good change of direction, a good high IQ football. He is on the lighter side, and you're not going to play him any narrower than 5 at the most. He's going to play more wide alignments. But that, if you want someone to get after the passer, you just let him go and let him go free, because he is going to cause havoc if that is the way you want your team to set up. If you can create space for him to be one-on-one on a tackle on the outside, look out, because he will fly past them. I think he's going to be really productive. He might not be on every down, but on those passing downs, James Pearce, let him go and let him fly, and I think he'll be really productive.
Yeah, he is number 3 for me. I really like James Pearce as well. I think he has the upside of a double-digit sack player in the NFL. 10 sacks in 2023, that was the most in the SEC. 7.5 in 2024. What was seen as a little bit of a down year for him. But as we said with Norman Lott in the defensive tackle group, Tennessee rotate their guys a lot.
They rotate the whole line at once.
Yeah, it's really, you would expect James Pearce to have seen the field a lot more than he actually did. Yes, he is like 6'5", 242 pounds. So I think in his rookie season, he would likely be used as a designated pass rusher, which I would just caveat by saying that isn't unusual for rookies in the NFL. That happens an awful lot, that rookies enter the NFL and they rotate in and out an awful lot. So they might not be that different of a usage for James Pearce Jr. It didn't take the next step that many envisioned in 2024, but people seem to be coming back round on him again. That people thought he might be the number 1 overall pick in the summer, dropped off. Some people then decided he wasn't even worthy of a first-round pick, and now he seems to be making a reappearance, which happens, prospect fatigue and things like that. But despite him being undersized, he is an excellent athlete. That he has elite explosiveness. He's extremely twitchy, the exact type of edge rusher that I usually go for. I think if you have a tackle on an island, he'll almost certainly beat them. My main concerns were the rotation in and out, his light frame, but the more I consider it, the more I think that his role won't be that different as he moves to the NFL, because his explosiveness his ability to transfer that explosive speed into power when bending around the edge. And yes, that weight means he will struggle defending the run, which is why he's going to be a designated pass rusher in his rookie season. But that shouldn't limit his ceiling, because he has some of the best pass rush moves of anyone in this class. His arsenal of pass rush moves is extremely refined. I think he's intelligent with it as well. He has a plan. He knows what he's going to do to beat a player before the ball has been snapped. He's not winging it after he's taken his first step, and he's extremely agile with it as well. I really like James Pearce Jr. I have him one spot below you, Stu. That's because I've ranked a player as an edge, and I'm presuming you've ranked him as a linebacker, which I wasn't expecting, but knew it could possibly be the case. But otherwise, yeah, I would be more than happy taking James Pearce Jr.
I think him being a player who's not on every down and keeping him fresh, he's going to be a nightmare for tired offensive tackles. Late in the game as well, those big guys they've been on the field a lot. The last thing you want to see is having to work against James Pearce Jr. because he's so quick, and when you're fatigued, the brain slows down. He's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I don't want people to think that he's just an athlete with pass rush moves, because he's not. He plays with timing. He's extremely intelligent, more intelligent than I think he's given credit for, because his ability to time the snap and then his accuracy with his hands after his first step. I think he's an elite pass rusher at the college level, and I can see how that would translate into double-digit sacks at the NFL without any problem at all. His projection is quite clear.
There we go. All right, give us your number 2 linebacker then, please.
Yeah, so I have ranked Georgia's Jalon Walker as an edge rusher, and he is edge 2 for me. Look, yeah, he is a hybrid linebacker edge, but I believe that his best reps come when he's playing off the edge. He almost reminds me of what Abdul Carter was a year ago, where Abdul Carter was playing linebacker, but you could see that his best reps came off the edge, and Penn State moving towards the edge, and we're now talking about him as potentially the top prospect in the entire class. That's how I currently see Jalon Walker. I think he transitions to the edge, and then his freaky athleticism, his size, and his versatility for me points towards him being a full-time edge rusher in the NFL. Now, I think for him, he'll need to go to a scheme where he has a creative play caller who can use that versatility. He can move him around. He can generate pressure from anywhere then. He's a really good blitzer coming through the A gap and the B gap, whereas if you get a defensive play caller who is happy to move him around and let him do that, I think that's where you'll get the best out of him. But yeah, it's been a bit of a Swiss Army knife in Kirby Smart's defense. He's been asked to do an awful lot: 60 tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 6.5 sacks in 2024. But I think he's got a plus-sized frame to 6'2", 245. I think you'll put a bit of weight on as well, because that's obviously linebacker size. He's really good in coverage, which means you would think that would point to him being a linebacker, but I would just see that would be a plus for him being an edge rusher, that you have the ability. You'll play him as an edge rusher, and then you can have him drop back if needed. It means you can disguise things a lot better. I think he could really grow into that edge role, because I think he's extremely refined as a pass rusher as well. We just didn't see an awful lot of it because he's been mixed around. I think he's got really good bag of pass rush moves: spin, the rip, swim move over the top, and I think he holds up against the run for his size as well. I think you would see him play all 3 downs. I really like Jalon Walker. I think he is just getting into the stride of what he is. The difference between him and what I said with Shemar Stewart is that I've seen it with Jalon Walker. I just need him to do it full time.
Yeah, let's go. Jalon Walker, I think, is a player that when we're sitting having a beer in 10 years' time, one of us is going to be taking the mickey out of the other. And I don't know which one it's going to be. Who's going to be taking? I really struggled with Jalon Walker. And I didn't find him the player I thought I was going to find.
Okay.
I would have him as a linebacker. I'm struggling with him as an edge rusher, to be honest. I think his best play is definitely, you mentioned it, coming through that A and B gap rather than being a true outside player. I don't think there's enough of a developed pass rush plan just there yet for him.
Okay.
I would have liked to have seen him go and play a full year at edge, go back to school and play a full year at edge.
I'd agree with that.
Because he is just a junior. You know, he could have had that other season, and then I might have been sold on him. I think from what I've seen, his best is kind of as a downhill linebacker at the moment. Is where I see him rather than an edge, and that's why I've not ranked him as an edge. I just really struggled. I just couldn't convince myself enough that I thought this guy's going to be a full-time edge player, and I'll probably be proven wrong because that always happens. But I just had enough doubts in my head that I wasn't wanting to commit to that one just yet. And I could be in a year's time, he could be rookie of the year and hit, a high lot of sacks and be in the right scheme for him, and that he'll be on our show of Stu's misses rather than hits. But I just couldn't get there quite on him just yet.
I won't try and win you round. I would just add that 2024 was his first year as a starter. So we're talking about analysts potentially have him as a top 10 pick, and he's only started 14 games, including the playoffs. His rise is that's for a reason. It's because of that athleticism. It's because of the strength that he is capable of playing with. Would you rank him as the top linebacker, do you think? We've not watched linebackers.
Yeah, I'm not deep enough in, but
do you think he is? Do you like him? But you think he's like a linebacker?
Yes. Yeah, it's not that I don't like him as a player. I'm not going to write him off and say I don't like Jalon Walker at all.
Yeah,
I would prefer him in a linebacker role for me. It's not that, and he probably will come out as linebacker one for me if when we get to that stage. It's not that I didn't like him. I just really struggled with him as an edge.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Something we can definitely agree on, I think, is the number one pick. Stu, I'll let you tell us all about him.
Yeah, we're not going to pull any surprises here, I don't think. We've talked about him, Abdul Carter. He has risen significantly as the year has gone on. He still continued to rise, to the point that people are talking about this as the number one overall pick in the draft. And when you've had the likes of Tennessee say they won't pass on a player just for a quarterback, it does make you think, are they eyeing up or someone else? But Abdul Carter is the guy that I think that people will talk about now potentially as being a number one overall pick. He's kind of followed that Penn State linebacker to edge story of
Micah Parsons.
Parsons. Yeah, I forgot his name there. It's not been a good night for me. He plays the same college, same trajectory, wears the same number as Parsons did at Penn State as well. But it is unfair to compare him to Parsons because there is differences between the two. They're not a complete like for like. A really explosive player who beats tackles when they're trying to kick slide out. He flushes quarterbacks out of that pocket. They have to climb or bail very quickly with him. He's got a nice bend. He's got a nice flexion. He gets a nice tight arc round the tackles. He's an explosive tackler. He hits the ball. He forces fumbles a lot with those violent hits as well. He's got a good combination of moves. He's got good spatial awareness as well. I think playing at linebacker, being aware of what's going on around him is really good. He's super tough. He's got the right blend of size and length. He's still learning the position as well. He's got a lot to go, and he doesn't maybe set the edge just perfectly, but again, you could see development in that as well. That's something that he will learn. He's my top defensive player, and he might be the top player for me in the draft completely. I really like Abdul Carter. A team's going to get a smashing player if they take him early on.
Yeah, he's certainly top two in the class. So you think you can have a conversation whether it's him or Travis Hunter. But yeah, clear edge one, 6'3", 252 pounds. The Micah Parsons comp is real. It's going to be thrown around an awful lot simply because Abdul Carter switched from off-ball linebacker to edge this season, and his athleticism, his strength, his speed, his explosive burst, and then once it clicked for him this season. It took a few games, but once it did click, you could see, right, I've got this, and he just went on from there. 24 tackles for a loss in 2024. That was the most in college football. More physical and aggressive than I think he's been given credit for, because a lot of people see him as this pure athlete, which he is, but he's extremely physical and aggressive with it. His bag of pass rush moves is outstanding, and he's still adding to it, and he's still refining that. I would like to see him play with more of a plan at times, where sometimes I think he takes off and then he decides what he's doing, whereas I would like to make this decision before line of scrimmage. You know, if you figured your opposition guy out, go, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, and just do it. Sometimes I think there's a little bit of hesitancy in that, which will come because he's still extremely raw, because his first year as an edge rusher, still learning how to play on the line of scrimmage, let's be honest. But yeah, if he could learn how to use those hands, which is where if he has a plan of where those hands are going to go, and he could anticipate better against the run, then I think we're talking about one of the better prospects we've evaluated at the edge position in terms of ceiling, because his ceiling is Sky. We've evaluated a lot of good edge rushers, but his ceiling is as high as any of them.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong if you're not sold on this quarterback class, and that's a big debate we are going to have come the time.
You shouldn't be. You should. If you are sold, you should rethink that.
Hint as to come in episodes. I think that you can't go wrong with a player like Abdul Carter. You know, we've talked about it as a number one overall pick. Tennessee, if they've got a bit of leeway in that team and they're looking to build and develop a team, why rush a quarterback when you could pick up someone like an Abdul Carter? I think that I would be surprised if he makes it out of the first 2 or 3 picks.
Wow, we've had some nice players there, some nice players overall so far in our series. But yeah, I've had 6 there, guys. No, not. Yeah, we have.
Less than I thought, actually.
Yeah,
indeed. But tell us some more. Who nearly made the list, or who deserves to be spoken about?
I think we need to speak about Mykel Williams, because I felt really bad leaving him out of the top 5. He would be number 6 for me, and I think he's a top 20 player, because he is excellent against the run. He doesn't offer enough as a pass rusher, but he is physically gifted and he's athletic enough to think that will come. But the floor he offers you against the run is as good as anyone in this class. 6'4", 265 pounds, prototypical size, extreme physicality to defend against the run, and that is a trait which you do not often see from edge rushers. When we went through that then with those top 5, rarely did we say how good they were against the run, and it's because you almost exclusively evaluate what edge rushers can do based upon their production in pass rush. But what Mykel Williams could do as a true defensive end, I would say, rather than a pure pass rusher, I think is worthy of a top 20 pick. Still extremely raw, and that pass rush does need to continue developing. I've not seen enough of it, but I think if you want burst, you want bend, you want agility, and you want that physicality to stop the run, that's going to mean that he can see the field on all 3 downs as a rookie, which you're not going to see from many rookies. I think Mykel Williams is worthy of that. I
don't feel as guilty as you do, Owen.
Okay.
I had him at 9.
Wow. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Again, I do like him, and again, this is not a knock being that low down because there is a lot of good pass rushers in the team. I think the run defense does stand out for me, and that is absolutely where he is at the moment. He's strong, he's agile, he can be nasty. I just think his pass rush just isn't there for me, and he is quite reliant on power. His stance, it can be a little bit high, and he gets caught underneath quite a lot of the time. He was just a bit for me. I didn't see anything that I disliked really, but I didn't see anything that excited me to think, wow, this guy's going to absolutely skyrocket. That's not to say he's a bad player by any stretch of imagination, because there is, we've said it ad nauseum that there's a lot of good players for me, but there was just players I liked various traits on more than him.
Who would you have had at 6 then? Second time.
My 6th was Nick Skirton.
Okay. I have him at 9.
Yeah, it's very it's weird how we pick like almost the same numbers for players as well, but just in a different spot. Yeah, again, he is somebody who didn't have such a good year this year. For such a talented defensive front, I don't know what was wrong with Texas A&M. I think he's someone who has got really good violent hands. He's got high motor, speed to power. He can drop into coverage. I've seen him do that, and he's got quite good hip movement for a guy his size, and he sets the edge well. His counter moves leave a little bit to be desired at times, and he's still a work in progress for me with that kind of hand in the dirt. But I think there was a lot to like from him previously, particularly at Purdue. I think this season just didn't quite work out for him, but he brings that impressive skill set, and I just couldn't see past that productivity that he had before Texas.
I have no idea what was going on this season. I don't understand it. He's carrying far too much weight. And I have no idea where it's come from or what the need for it was. It's clear that Texas A&M like to play with heavier defensive ends, but it made no sense to me. So he transferred over from Purdue with 10 sacks, the most in the Big Ten in 2023, had just 5 in 2024, and he's carrying far too much bulk on his body around his waist, and it significantly impacts his explosive athleticism and his burst, which was his calling card. Was at Purdue, he was out athleting players in the Big Ten, which is hard to do, especially when you play for Purdue. But to then transfer to Texas A&M and almost lose a step of speed.
Yeah, he's young as well. He will only turn 21 right about a week or two before the season, so during pre-season really. So he is a younger prospect, and I think I probably, if I just went on what I'd seen at Texas A&M, I would be where you were. I probably just went back a little bit too far on him. Whether he is the Purdue player or whether he's a Texas A&M player, that remains to be seen. But it's sometimes with prospects, you just see them, you sometimes just can't get off what you know they can be, and I think that's probably where it's
2023 tape is some of the most refined pass rushing tape of anyone in this class. That you think this guy knows what he's doing. His pass rush is developed. If he would have been better off
staying at Purdue.
Yes, or if he was in last year's draft, he would have gone higher than if he was in this one. I think he's now a day 2 player.
I agree.
I'll be interested to see if that weight comes down for the combine. He was invited to the Senior Bowl. Expectations were he was going to be at the Senior Bowl, and then he hasn't been. We don't know the exact reason for that. So we don't have a weight on him. So I'll be interested to see if that weight comes down. So we think he was 285 at Texas A&M this season. I would like to see that come down by 20 pounds. I'll be honest.
Yeah, if he's hitting that 260-ish,
he's not going to lose 20 pounds overnight for the combine. But if we can get somewhere in the 270s and we can see a trajectory of it coming down, then I think that'll be really good, because that is his explosiveness to get after the quarterback. That needs to return. I think that losing the bad weight will help that.
Any more while we're here?
Yeah, I will just throw a couple of names out. We'll just a
Mhm.
minute on them. Prince Mykel from Ole Miss. He would have been my number 7. That really like him. 14 tackles for a loss, 10.5 sacks in 2024. Day 2 player, 6'4", 262 pounds, but plays like and bends and got the flexibility of an edge rusher, 20 pounds lighter to him. Absolutely violent eruption off the snap, and has the flexibility to turn the corner. I think he'll be a really solid edge rusher in the NFL as a potential top of day 2 type of guy. And then just a mention for Donovan Eziraku, who had 16.5 sacks for Boston College in 2024. So Mike Green was the leader with 17, so he had half a sack less than him. So he's worthy of a shout. 21 tackles for a loss. He will likely go on day 2 as well, and has really good bend at 6'2", 247 pounds. They were counting for 9 sacks in 8 games at the start of 2024. So he's a real threat, and he can align from different positions. So he's worthy of a shout out as well as one of the top 10 guys.
Thank goodness we do top 5s and get a bit more agreement than we do in 5 to 10. That would be. I'm not the biggest Prince Mykel guy. He was 10 for me.
I think that's when we were all about before that. What you want.
Yeah.
The explosive athleticism, pass rush win rate, and all that. That's why I like him. I'm not surprised that you have him further down.
The next guy I'm probably going to speak about, we're probably going to have the same kind of views on, Landon Jackson.
He I have him at 13.
Yeah, again, I had him at 8, but a player like Arkansas, just a bit of a hard-nosed, relentless motor type guy, who again has probably got a reasonable floor, but he's not the highest ceiling kind of guy. Again, someone you kind of what you're going to get with him. He was one of the guys that I quite liked as well. And yeah, you mentioned, I can never say his name, Eziraku, as well. He's someone that, again, reached my radar. And lastly, Ashton Jalot. I can never say Jalot.
Yeah, Ashton Jalot.
From Louisville, again, he would have been in that top 10 kind of range for me.
Okay.
I think he's someone who is a really good athlete, very explosive. He's probably on the shorter side from a length perspective. He's not the most elite bendy, but he's really strong, impressive burst off the snap. He led the ACC in sacks in 2023. He's quite an instinctive player, and he's got a really good second effort. So he's another player too.
He was a player that surprisingly went back to school, and I'm not sure it particularly did him any favours.
No, his 2023 was better than his 2024.
Yeah, I think he's a day 3 player, but as an early round 4 type prospect. But I could see him sneaking into because there's just so many of them. There's 18 guys that I would take in the top 3 rounds here, and that's like players like Kyle Kennard, Patrick Payton, Ashton Jaloti, Tyler Batty. I wouldn't have as day 2 players, but I could see going that you could easily see over 20 edge rushers go in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah. What do you think about Tuimalatu?
Yeah, so he's 12 there for me.
Yeah, he's somebody I was expected to be a bit higher on, but I just didn't. I just wasn't impressed. When I was watching, I watched a lot of Sawyer as well, obviously.
Yeah. I see them as quite similar players, but in ways that I think that's the type of player that NFL teams need. But I just don't see the ceiling for him, especially as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I agree, because I know there's been a lot of buzz about him, and certainly you've seen him ranked and all sorts. I'm just interested on your take, because I'm kind of in that range with him as well.
Yeah, I think he's more athletic than he's given credit for. But I think he's flashy as a pass rusher. But he's been in college long enough that I've just not seen enough explosive movement from him. I think he could.
He's not taking that next step.
Yeah, I think he could tick along. He's physical enough. He's got good hands. I think his footwork is rather heavy. I don't think he's potentially the most mobile, although he's got that burst and the explosive athleticism. But I don't think he moves laterally that quickly. Yeah, I'm not crazy in love with JT Tuimoloau, I'll be honest. Heavy as well. I think he's around 270.
Wow, there we go. Plenty of names to keep an eye out for there. Thank you very much, guys. Before we go, quickly remind the lovely listeners and or watchers of your own top fives, please, guys.
Yeah, so I had Shemar Stewart from Texas A&M at 5, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State at 4, Mike Green of Marshall at 3, James Pearce Jr. from Tennessee at 2, and Penn State's Abdul Carter as my number 1.
And I had Shemar Stewart at 5. At 4, I had Mike Green. 3, James Pearce. 2, Jalon Walker. And 1, Abdul Carter.
Well, there we go. Another set of top fives in the bag. Thank you very much, guys. And we'll be back soon with more top fives, with more draft talk. So until then, take care and thanks for listening.